Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to have to mute my speakers here. Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning if you're joining us from the West Coast. I'm glad you're here today. Thank you for taking the time in your busy schedules to join us. I trust you'll be glad that you did after you hear from Greg Wilson today. My name is Jeff Stein. I'm the founder and CEO of Plan Giving Marketing. And with a background in marketing, we understand the impact effective marketing can have on the success of your plan giving program. I also know that many fundraisers don't really see how marketing fits into the overall setup and success of their plan giving programs. You know it's your responsibility. You know you have to market plan gifts, but maybe you view marketing more as a frustration than a tool that makes you more successful. Greg Wilson is a fundraiser who does understand the role of marketing. In fact, he believes a program will fail without it. So we've asked him here today to walk you through the framework of a plan giving program. You'll be able to see what you need to start a program and what you need to keep it going. Of course, it's going to take more than marketing. And so this training will help you see how it all works together. Our industry leans on a great deal of legal terms and weighty topics. This is one reason I love Greg's approach. Greg's going to use stick figures to show you how simple it can be to have a successful program. I'm excited to get started so you can hear him. So please help me welcome Greg with a wave or a virtual emoji or whatever you can do to say hi on the webinar today. Greg, take it from here.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and I'm glad everybody could join us on the call today. If you're just beginning your plan giving journey, this presentation will teach you the basics of starting a plan giving program. If you're a seasoned vet, it's, in my opinion, always a good practice to take a step back and review the fundamentals. I'd also like to thank Jeff and his team for helping me with this presentation. They cleaned up my original version and truly made it fit for public consumption, and are also giving me this platform because I have a personal goal to empower every organization to have a successful plan giving program. Now, creating a plan giving program may seem overwhelming at first. There's so many terms, as Jeff mentioned, giving vehicles, legal terminology. It's just enough to make your head explode. But it doesn't really have to be that complicated. In the following presentation, I'll show you the very basics of plan giving, and really from just my journey as well. You know, I was once just like you and can probably relate to most, if not all of you on the call. I've worked for national youth organizations, an Order of Nuns, a public regional university, a private nationally ranked liberal arts college, and now I'm the Chief Development Officer for 2 connected regional healthcare organizations. And at most of these, I've been responsible for starting or growing their plan giving program. In my opinion, in the not too distant future, there's going to be a real separation in nonprofits. And it's going to be the difference between those nonprofits that are financially stable and those that just struggle each and every day to keep their lights on. But really the real difference, and the one that's going to create this monetary difference, is whether or not an organization has a strong plan giving program. And I think the last 15 months have really shown that to be true. You know, this program, a plan giving program, will take you some time and effort to establish. The good news is, though, you can make a difference today. If you're willing to take action, again, today, towards a strong plan giving program, it will ensure your organization survives and thrives into the future. You know, think of the many, many people that your organization helps. They'll thank you for the work that you started today. And the best part is, the work that you do and that you start right now can also help you raise more money this year as well. So we'll start right off with Meet, Phil, and Grace. They're your secret, because everybody has those, plan giving prospects. You've never met them, but they know you, and they've read everything you've ever sent to them, even your letter from the CEO that nobody else actually reads. In short, they love your organization. You won't realize who they are for another 20 years when Grace's bequest goes to the other nonprofit down the street. Phil and Grace were loyal donors to your organization for many, many years. They never gave any large amounts, somewhere between $25 and $150 a year, but most years they gave to several appeals. Now, they did miss years here and there. They finally took that second honeymoon to Europe. They bought a vacation home. Phil opened a new practice, and there were some bumps and bruises along the way. So why didn't you know them? Why did their $3 million estate go to the other nonprofit down the street that they didn't like as much as you? Why did Phil and Grace support that other organization? And it really just comes down to that other organization promoted planned giving in all of their materials. They showed Phil and Grace the impact this type of gift could make. And that other organization made it easy for them to join their legacy society, and then made them feel like a part of the organization afterwards. Really, in short, that other organization just asked. So now you're thinking, oh my gosh, what do I do? Where do I start? I don't know any of those complicated looking planned giving things that I read about in all the fundraising magazines. We're doomed. I should just give up now. So help. But in my opinion, and again, with all the stick figures here, you're in luck. I was once just like you, and now I've learned everything I need to know about running a successful planned giving program. And the other part is, truthfully, you don't have to go at it alone. So, and thankfully for my artistic ability, the whole plan and the whole concept of a strong and successful planned giving program is based on a stick figure. So I'll walk you through the overview here. So head is the first step. Use your head. You need to build a plan first. Use your eyes and ears to figure out where your focus needs to be. The body contains the heart, which is your legacy society. Makes people who have already raised their hand feel like they're part of something big. Your arms are the outreach. Make your outreach more personal. It's like a big hug. Your arms are a smaller muscle than your legs, but just as important. And your legs, your legs on the ground, are your largest muscle in your body. So this is your largest scale outbound marketing that you do, your largest outreach that you do. And this is really what makes your program run. And if you notice throughout this entire program, there's no vehicles involved. So you don't have to worry about the benefits or downsides of an IMCRUT or a shark fin CRUT or anything like that. So really the best way, again, to begin a planned giving program is to only focus on beneficiary designations. They're the easiest for your donors. They're the easiest for you. So beneficiary designations include gifts through the will, gifts of somebody's retirement account, gifts of someone's investment, whether it's gifts of stock, bank accounts, etc., and to be a beneficiary of a life insurance policy. And anything that's more complicated than this, and your donor is going to want to bring in their own advisors to the process anyways. And then if you really need it, you're almost always going to have time to dial a friend and bring in your own expert, whether it's somebody that you've met through another organization, or whether it's a professional advisor that's tied to your specific nonprofit. So now that we've again seen the overview, let's get a little bit more detailed with our stick figure. Let's talk about the process of starting or strengthening your planned giving program. So the biggest one here is your head, and this is building the plan. The first step is, what can you realistically accomplish day in, day out? So planned giving is all about consistency. You'll hear me mention this several times throughout the presentation. You can't have any fits and starts. As the presentation just says, consistency is key. Budget. What can you spend money-wise, and what can you spend time-wise? I think that's the biggest thing that we tend to forget is we'll look at a budget and that's what we'll think about. And we never stop and think, well, what can I actually do day in, day out? I'll quote a lot of people through the presentation. Jim Collins, in some of his books, references that as the 20-mile march. What can you do day in, day out, all the time? Another author that I like talks about it as discipline equals freedom. This is Jocko Willink. It's Methods for Success. And it's going to be your discipline equals your organization's financial freedom. And the options for this discipline are, what's a realistic goal for outreach? Thinking through the next step or 2 steps down the line of the arms. How many phone calls? Are you going to do events? And then truly allocate time and stick to it so it becomes routine. But do you also include volunteers? Do you outsource some of this? Planned giving is truly all about confidence and future longevity, building trust that your organization is going to be around for a long time. And then start to think about who you're going to focus on. Do you focus on your long-term donors? There's some statistics that show that after 7 years of consecutive giving, it increases the probability of somebody including you in their will. And at 15 plus years of consecutive giving, jumps up to increases somebody's chances of including you in their will by 60%. You can also focus on donors that don't have any children. And really the other part of the who do you focus on is everyone. And we'll talk about this a little bit later as well. But the everyone can be just as simple as starting with a checkbox on the front of your direct mail response forms, asking people to indicate if they have or if they would be interested in including your organization in their will. So another one of my favorite quotes is, don't get distracted by what you see. Sorry, this is me talking instead of the quote. I get so excited about this one, but don't get distracted about what you see others doing. Focus on you, and the biggest thing is to remember, don't compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. Comparison is poison. The biggest thing I see as I talk to people and try to help them where I can with their Planned Giving program is they look and they'll compare themselves to the Ivies, or if they're a community nonprofit, they'll compare themselves to the college down the street. And you just can't. Everybody starts at the beginning and everybody progresses along their own time frame. You can't just say, oh, well, we're not as big as a Harvard or a Penn or a Princeton, so we must be terrible. I should just give up. No, don't compare yourself. Just build your plan and start on it. So next is the body, and this is your legacy society. And if you don't have a legacy society, then you just need to make one. That's a good chance to be creative, to pick something that you like, whether it's a name that's associated with a key person from your organization, or whether it's a founding year, or again, going back to a founder or somebody else who made a lasting impact. And then make a logo that can be recognizable and connected to your organization's legacy society. And the legacy society, along with all of your marketing that again we'll talk about later, is all about reassurance, reminding your Planned Giving donors that they made the right choice. And it's also where the heart is. You have to show these donors the impact that their gifts can make, and it's through your organization's achievement. And it also gives you the chance through the Legacy Society to continue to cultivate these Planned Giving donors and show them this insider information. Treat them like they are these special donors that they truly are. The Legacy Society also helps reaffirm that people like me do things like this, so there's some good positive peer pressure through there that like, oh yeah, okay, I'm this kind of person and this is what I do. This is how I show my support. And then the Legacy Society also gives you the opportunity to confirm what their intentions are. So again, that goes back to showing them specific impact and also just how much you care about them. So the next part of the stick figure are the arms. And this is your personal outreach and your personal attention. And this can be phone calls, letters, emails. And it really can start with something as simple as thank you calls to longtime donors. And you can just start the conversation by asking them why they started giving. It's just a great way to provide some of that personal outreach and attention. You'll be amazed at what people share with you, and determine if you can schedule a face-to-face meeting, and while you're doing both the phone call and then in that face-to-face meeting, listen for some key phrases. The biggest one that I've heard over the years is just, I wish I could do more. And then it's very easy for you to respond with, well, have you ever considered, including this organization in your will, or leaving your IRA to this organization? And, I found that it resonates with people, again, if you just start it with that, well, have you ever considered this? Now, I do have to say that this is the most difficult to be consistent, because the number of people that you can get out the door and meet with, or the number of people that you can call, is going to be a little bit different in June, July, or August than December and January, as you have the craziness of the year going through there. And the other thing with the arms is, don't forget, you're on your donor's time frame. Plan giving combines two of people's least favorite activities, as I always remind staff that I've worked with over the years, is that you're asking them to, one, think about their own death, which not many people enjoy doing that, and two, you're potentially asking them to pay for some time with their lawyer, which, again, not many people are jumping up and down and going, "Ooh, that's what I want to do today." And then the other good part about the arms is, as you're thinking through this and as you're building your plan, think about what you as an individual and you as a person can do that's uniquely you. And that, because that leads into the next part, which are the legs, and that's your volume marketing. And the better your volume marketing is, this is helps you learn who you're going to spend your time on going back into the arms then. The marketing is that widest part of the funnel that you're then narrowing down into your arms. But marketing and any type of mass outbound medium like that is really also building trust at an organizational level that you, again, have to be regular and consistent with. This is what builds trust. You have to demonstrate longevity and reliability. So if your marketing and all of your outbound communications are consistent, and that they show up on a particular pattern, and they're showing what the organization is doing over time, this helps build that trust, and again, demonstrate that longevity and reliability, because donors need to trust that your organization is going to be around for many, many years. They don't want to make this gift that happens after they're gone, and then your organization is gone as well. And donors also need to trust that you're going to follow their instructions after they're gone. There's been a number of some pretty prominent cases over the years of showing what type of uncrackable estate planning structure was put into place that was only found to be cracked 80 years later, 60 years later, 20 years later. There was a big case in the Philadelphia area of the Barnes Museum. That was a museum that was supposed to be in a neighborhood that people could walk to, and it only took, I think, about 80 years or so before that trust was cracked, and they ended up moving it down to the Philadelphia Art Museum. So it's I think I'm thinking of the right museum there, but that's again, and in a depressing way, I saw a lot of uptick in people reaching back out to me during that time frame, because they wanted to make sure that the organization I worked for at that time knew what their intentions were and what their plans were. So that's key, because again, going back to that trust, donors need to trust that you're going to listen to them. So who do you market to? Going back again to your legs, and who do you want to reach out to? And really, it's as many people as you can. But if you have to pick some criteria, you need to pick those criteria and then stick with it. You can't change and send 100 pieces out this month, and then in 2 months later send 5,000 next month, and then go back down to 200 the next month. Again, remember, you're building trust. Whether we always like it or not, our donors will sometimes talk to one another, and that's a bad thing too, is for people to find out, oh, well, I've gotten 3 pieces and I've only gotten 1, or that your outbound communication just sort of shows up sporadically instead of on any type of structure. Again, it's that consistency, that reliability that builds trust. So, and your marketing only has to be simple. Postcards are effective. 90% of direct mail gets open. Think about what you do on a daily basis, is even as you collect your, we call it junk mail on the receiving end, but somebody from the other end is looking at that as outbound marketing. You typically still take the time to open it before you separate it and shred it. And that at least gives you some opportunity for people to look at that. And again, going back to, that's why postcards are so effective. It's, again, I think most political Campaigns are run off of postcards still, so that's a good thing to again kind of remember that you see whether you like it or not every 2 to 4 years. And then e-newsletters are another good way. Any type of straightforward insider information that you can share that's really, again, providing value back to these people to say, hey, we care about you. Here's everything this organization is doing to change the world. And my other big one is use your photo in your marketing. You have to humanize yourself. And I can't tell you over my years of doing this, how many times a donor brought a plan giving postcard to the first meeting that had my photo on the back of it to make sure that I was really me, and it's bad to make stereotypes this way, but a lot of times they were your proverbial little old ladies that wanted to talk about making a deferred gift with me that weren't totally sure that they wanted to meet with somebody. And so they would bring this postcard and I could see them as they were walking towards me, because I tend to be the only person in a shirt and tie and a jacket in a diner someplace random kind of deal. And I could see them walking up and they had the postcard and they could see them looking down and looking back up and looking down and looking back up. And that again is building that trust and humanizing. They saw me as a person. And I also strongly recommend that you don't use this form for more information or any type of generic email address. Like, allow people to contact you directly. I think Jeff even recommends in some of his items to provide a Calendly link so that people can literally schedule time directly with you. Anything again to make you look like this person. And then the biggest thing through all of this marketing is showing donors how they can be the hero of the story, that they can change the world through your organization. It's not just like, oh, make us a beneficiary because we're a great organization. You can help show donors that they can be the Luke Skywalkers in the world and change that world by making that gift. And your organization just happens to be the tool that they use to change the world. And that's huge. Again, your volume marketing can do that. And again, to circle back to some of the same principles, is this really then demonstrates and reinforces that people like me do things like this. You want to show people that it's okay and it's comfortable for them to make deferred gifts and beneficiary type gifts. So now run through the whole stick figure here. And, again, coming back to my main thought here is that everybody can do plan giving well. And you really only need to remember that it's a stick figure. You have to remember the head, that you need to build a plan. You need to remember the body, that is your legacy society. You need to remember your arms, which is your personal outreach, your hugs, your handshakes, your fist bumps, whatever your comfort level might be. And that it's your legs, and that's just your volume marketing, your volume communication. Again, whether it's postcards, e-newsletters or anything like that, that's all important. And the big thing to remember is that there's no vehicles involved. You're just showing people, again, how they can make a difference using your organization. And in the grand scheme of things, it's really some straightforward fundraising. And I help some organizations from time to time in my spare time, as I like to joke about that. I do my best to help them with their plan giving programs. And recently there was an organization that I was given some thoughts to, and I literally had 4 main recommendations to them that were: name their legacy society, get some basic documents in place, and then start to market it and make it easy for their donors and the people that they interact with to raise their hand. And then the 4th part was just figure out what they can do and then outsource the rest. It doesn't help you any if you have this great plan that just then sits on the shelf. You need to figure out, okay, well, I can do A and B out of this plan. Well, I need to now find somebody that can help me do C, D, and E. And that's just as important too. And especially if you're a small shop, I've learned that the hard way several times of saying, no, I know what I'm doing, so I'm going to try to do it all. And then in the end, I just kind of lay down in the office floor and pass out after a while. So again, you have to make that decision. Okay, what can I spend time on, and what do I have to spend some money on? And again, it goes back to that plan and figuring out, well, where are you with all of this? So again, it all comes back down to Phil and Grace, and you really need to remember them. So you need to set up your program, make it simple and easy for donors to raise their hands, And then make sure you ask. Like, that's the biggest thing. And that's why, like, I just always bring things back to Phil and Grace, that you have to make sure you ask, just even as simple as, well, have you ever considered, or would you consider? So I know that was a whole lot that I just shared with everybody in a pretty short amount of time, but I want to thank you for joining us today. I'll turn it back over to Jeff. If there's any questions or anything that anybody wants to talk about or chat about.
Greg, that was awesome. Really awesome. Great information. Greg used the illustration of the legs in his stick figure example, and I love this. And I don't know if I'm on screen or not, but I'll assume that maybe I am, or you're happy enough looking at Greg's face. Anyway, I love the stick figure example, because when we say that something's got legs, it means it's likely to be successful and continue. And that's what marketing can do for your plan giving program. Now, Greg told you a simple way to grow your plan giving program. You need a plan that integrates legacy society, personal outreach, and outbound marketing together. It sounds simple, but we know that simple doesn't always mean easy. So I want to tell you how to make it easy, and that's to let us help you set up the program. Let us do the setup for you. We'll create your plan. We'll help you brand and set up your legacy society. We will provide specific action steps for your personal outreach, and we'll create and launch a full-blown marketing plan, a full-blown marketing campaign. The sooner you get started, the sooner you'll have a fully functioning program. Imagine if we just got started now at the beginning of the new fiscal year, by the end of the summer, in the fall at the very latest, you'll have a full-blown plan giving program. I would say it's best to use your marketing budget for those who have a stalled program or no program at all. Because of this option, you get more than marketing, you'll get a whole program. And if you do have a solid plan giving program, I invite you to call us to compare our marketing packages against what you're currently doing. One thing that sets us apart from other vendors that you never have to guess if your marketing is working. You'll never have to guess if your marketing is working. Every one of our marketing campaigns is built on a framework that shows you exactly who is responding to which messages work best. If it sounds complicated, don't worry. We'll sit down with you one-on-one and show you what's happening behind the scenes. The marketing will tell you exactly who to call so you can plan your personal outreach. So again, if you're looking to launch a program or you want to compare our marketing solutions to your current solutions, give us a call. We'd love to talk. And thanks again for joining us.
I was going to say there's a couple of questions that we can talk through that popped up in the chat.
Great.
Joanne Woolley, and I will apologize now if I ever butcher somebody's name. So their question was ideas for stewardship, letters or emails showing impact, inviting to events, looking for other ideas. So one of the items that we've been doing with a group of individuals with some of our sort of pre-stewardship is we try to send them any type of news that's going out into the general public. We try to give them that news ahead of time, or we give them that news in greater depth. So we just take a typical press release and write it a little bit more than that. We've also done just recently at the organizations where I'm at now, we just did a meet the CEO. We have a relatively new CEO. He's been with us for 10 months now. And we had a meet the CEO through Zoom. So we were able to have Legacy Society members from as far away as, I think from Nova Scotia down to Arizona, and we're a Pennsylvania-based organization. All join in on this call to be able to meet the CEO, ask him some questions directly. They seem to really like that. Isabel asked a question of, in my experience, do board members often accompany you on asks? I've not ever had that with deferred gifts, and unless it, or like a planned gift, unless it's been tied very specifically to a comprehensive campaign, where it was a chairman of the board or somebody from the advancement committee. That was at a small private liberal arts college where we were working to include everybody on the board in the Plan Giving Society as part of the comprehensive campaign. So there we did have some board members accompany the conversation to another board member, typically at that level. But otherwise, it's almost always just been myself or an additional staff member that earlier in my career that had more technical expertise coming. I found most donors view that as a very private and confidential conversation. And I've also found, tied back in with that, going back to the whole dial-a-friend, is that Plan Giving donors are typically a lot more receptive to you saying, I don't really know the specific answer to that. Give me a couple weeks. I'll do some research. I'll reach out to, whatever, whether it's a CPA, whether it's an attorney or whatever, and I'll come back to you. The other thing that I always stress within that is that, as a frontline fundraiser, I can't necessarily offer any financial nor legal advice, but I always try to empower my donors to ask the right questions at the right time. So I always help them think through it rather than ever giving them advice and teaching them questions. Somebody said, when you say build your legacy society, besides welcoming letters. Yeah, I think you can have, as far as for building your legacy society and what can you do to help grow that. I think within that welcome, you can have a letter that's signed by the CEO. You can have something that comes, again, I'm in healthcare right now, so you could have some outreach signed by a clinician. We just dealt with some donors, I guess it was last summer now, that gave to our pediatric program, where we had all of the children in our pediatric program sign some oversized cards that we then mailed out to a particular foundation. So that one's a foundation, but you could do that with your Legacy Society members as well. Or if you have something where that impact happens, if you're a youth development program, or even if you're a homeless shelter or a food bank, you can have people that are being impacted with it just sign a general card and send that to your Legacy Society members. You can have board members sign something. I found events, again, are nice, something that brings them back to where they can see where the rubber meets the road, where the impact is happening. I don't know. I'm not, a lot of people like giveaways. I used to. Over the last, well, I guess it started even like 12 years ago. For whatever reason, I just became very anti-giveaway, besides basic functional items like pens and letter openers and eyeglass cleaners, which I feel like kind of everybody's done as well. But an organization, a couple stops ago, I used to just travel the country with a big Ziploc bag of pens, and I'd be gone for 10 days, 14 days at a time. And that's all I ever gave out, were just pens that had the Legacy Society's name on it. I do think newsletters, anything that you can, again, show people that you're treating them like an insider, like you're treating them like a trusted advisor. Again, trust is pretty two-way there, so you have to talk about that. And then we had another question as far as why do you say don't talk about vehicles? I think the biggest one why I've stopped, and I believe me, I've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money to become decently versed in vehicles. And I think that people's personal financial situations are so nuanced and they very rarely share 100% of what you would truly need to make a decision. So I think it's very easy to go down a wrong rabbit hole by always suggesting a vehicle. And I ran into this, gosh, I guess it was probably about 9 years ago now. I had a donor whose advisor contacted me and said, oh, so-and-so wants to do a charitable gift annuity. And I said, okay. So I just started running calculations. I never stopped and asked. I never took that step back and really thought through stuff. So I just kept running all these calculations, and I take them back to the financial advisor, and I'm like, oh, these don't make sense. They don't, I don't think this is going to do. And finally, the financial advisor and I just went around and around for about 2 months. The donor was starting to get frustrated because he thought, oh, I've passed it off to these two people. They should be able to make this happen right away. So finally, I called the donor at risk of annoying the advisor. And I was like, so what were you actually hoping to accomplish with this? Because I've just, and I started going through some of the basics of a charitable gift annuity. I'm like, do you have, do you need income? And from what I knew of his situation, that wasn't the case. And he's like, no. And I'm like, well, do you need to liquidate a particular illiquid asset and turn it into something else? And he's like, no, I've told you what most of my investments are, what's your problem here? And I was like, well, this whole vehicle doesn't make sense. What do you really want to do with this? Are you looking to take care of your spouse when, if you were to go? And he's like, no, I just want to impact this kind of kid. This was at a university. I said, oh, well, you could do that with just an outright gift each year. And he's like, oh, that's all I have to do is like send you some stock or write you a check. And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, then why was I looking at this other thing? And I'm like, I don't know, because we never took that step back and asked the question of what do you want to accomplish? And so that's why I always say, don't talk about vehicles. And especially if it's something complicated, the donor is almost always going to already have their own attorney, their own CPA, and they're the ones that will structure the gift. And you just have to make sure it matches your organization's mission and what you can and can't deliver kind of deal as an organization.
Hey, Greg, I just wanted to clarify, there is a time to talk about the particular gift vehicle. It's just not in the beginning. Leading with the particular type of gift kind of pigeonholes your conversation and runs the risk of excluding a lot of potential donors from even having a conversation with you, because what you're pitching completely misses the mark as far as their personal finances and philanthropic goals are concerned. So yes, there's always a time and a place. It's just not in the beginning.
Correct. Yep. That overly narrows it. And some of it would come down to, again, as I'm sure many people on the call would know, that it's time and age of the particular donors, because different vehicles fit at different point in times in a donor's life and, within their ages as well. So there's, you can market a vehicle later on, but again, that has to be when your funnel's as wide as possible. You don't want to do that with a particular individual right off the bat.
Greg, you were addressing the question earlier about stewardship ideas for members of the Legacy Society, and I think you touched on them, but I wanted to maybe add or clarify. If your mission is location-based, a behind-the-scenes tour, special invitations to arts and cultural events that might be on campus. Again, these are events that might be open to the public, but if the members of your Legacy Society get a special invitation or a pre-concert cocktail reception or something of that level, it lets them know how important they are to the organization. So you don't always have to do things that are specific to your Legacy Society or specific to Legacy Society stewardship. You can take advantage of existing events or existing venues and then just bring in your Legacy Society as VIP attendees. That's something that we've seen done at a lot of places and done very effectively, and it doesn't really require that much extra work because the event and the location are functioning as part of your normal operations.
Yeah, I would just add to that as well, or confirm that's high five you electronically there, because that is I've done that over and over again, that you take something that's already there and all you do is you add a small reception or a small cocktail hour or something else to, as you mentioned, that already existing event, whether it's a theater production or whether it's a football game. Again, it depends on your organization, but just those little extra tweaks really make a huge difference to this to this group, because again, they want to feel like, you know, they've included you as part of their family when they made you a beneficiary of something. You have to show that trust on their side as well and bring them back in like their family. So
Colleen, do we have any more questions from the group?
No, it looks like all the questions have been answered. I'm
Excellent.
just going to put up some contact information on here. If anyone has any questions they think of after we finish with the presentation, later today or even tomorrow, you can email Jeff directly. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We are constantly posting different ideas and articles. We're planning on doing future webinars around this subject in a little more detail in the future, so you can keep a lookout for that as well.
Excellent. So thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Michelle, and all the marketing people at Plan Giving Marketing who put this together. And Greg, especially thank you for lending your time and your expertise to help this audience realize that plan giving does not have to be complicated. It's as simple as drawing a stick figure. So for everyone here at Plan Giving Marketing and for Greg, thank you for joining us. Happy fundraising. And for those of you with a July 1 fiscal year, Happy New Year. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
thank you.
Bye.